A new Haaretz daily report citing unnamed Israeli and Jordanian sources is alleging that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delayed approving a Jordanian request for water from Israel over supposedly growing personal issues with the royal family in Amman. And sources go on to say that Netanyahu's actions likely indicate that the request will be denied, despite treaties and agreements between the two countries. So is there any truth to these allegations, and if so, what do they mean? Here with more is Middle East expert with NYU and the Moshe Dayan Center, Dr. Josh Krasna. Dr. Krasna, thank you so much for being with us. Now, do you believe the report?
So I've seen the report in Jordanian papers, but they're quoting Haaretz. So I wouldn't be surprised if at least the issue has been brought up, because this is an issue that has been often brought up in, let's say, conservative, not to say right-wing circles in Israel, since the issue of Tzofar and Naharaim, right? That if the Jordanians are keeping to the strict letter of the peace treaty, then there's no reason Israel shouldn't be keeping to the strict letter of peace treaty. So it could well be that it's an issue that has developed now, as you pointed out. You referred to as a personal tension. I don't think.
Well, that's the allegation from Haaretz.
Yeah. So there's tension between Israel and Jordan. It's been going on for a long time. It sort of peaked during the discussions of the annexation of Jordan Valley. It's peaked even more in recent weeks with the sort of tit for tat we had last week. I wouldn't be surprised if this issue has been discussed. I would be surprised if it doesn't eventually get solved.
So you're saying you wouldn't be surprised if Israel were actually withholding water and other resources that we've agreed with Jordan to give them? So
it's a little bit complicated here. Under the agreement with Jordan, we are required to provide Jordan with a certain amount of water that comes from the Jordan River Basin, which is stored mostly in the Kinneret. But in recent years, certainly in the past 10 years, Israel has been providing more water under sort of side agreements than those that are actually required under the peace agreement. While the peace agreement requires us to provide 50 million cube, we are providing in many years up to 75. Now, the peace treaty does say that after the first 50 million, Israel would strive to provide another 50 million, but it doesn't require us to. So when the relationship is good, these issues tend to not come up. As I said, they were brooded a few years ago when the issue of Tzofar and Naharaim came up. This is the first time that if there was actually an Israeli, let's say, rejection of the Jordanian request, it would be the first time, but it would be theoretically within our rights. It wouldn't be a particularly neighborly thing to do, right, but it would be theoretically within our legal rights.
And what would be the aftermath or the aftershock or the consequences of going back to the minimum, so to speak?
So that's why I said that I'm not at all sure that's what will end up. I think, like I said, there was a kind of a tit for tat a while ago. The Jordanians were perceived by the Israeli government. I'm not sure if they perceive themselves as having crossed the line with not allowing, not giving permission for the prime minister to overfly them on the way to UAE, right, after what they saw and we didn't necessarily see as a calculated insult to their royal family. So, I think there's in an election season where the prime minister is often looking rightward, I think that it's not surprising to see these kind of things.
Interesting. All right. Well, I hope, as you said, a solution will be found very quickly in the near future. Dr. Krasna, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.